All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to convene this hearing this afternoon. And I'm going to go down the list that we have on the notice, the agenda, that is. Senate Bill 33, we'll start with that. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Senator Dixon. Welcome to our committee.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for having me today.
Tell us about your bill.
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman, committee members, I bring Senate Bill 33 before you today. It has to do with eradicating human trafficking in our state. This is a governor's bill, and it's a continuation of the First Lady Marty Kemp's initiatives. I'm honored to bring this piece of legislation before you. This is an issue that touches my county and many of yours, and will be crucial in helping further protect and help these vulnerable victims. First, this bill creates a new code section to provide for victim of human trafficking to have civil cause of action against a perpetrator. Second, it allows victims to potentially recover damages and reasonable attorney fees. Third, it creates a statute of limitations for filing such civil action and allows for a stay of civil lawsuit while criminal action arising from the incident of human trafficking is pending. It also allows the Attorney General to have cause of action against a perpetrator of human trafficking on behalf of the state under certain circumstances. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Was there anybody else to speak on the bill that you knew of?
No, sir.
Okay.
We've got Trey Bennett in the hall with the governor's office.
And do we have any questions for Senator Dixon from anybody? All right. Is the committee ready for a motion? Excuse me.
Maybe I will try this one. Number 7. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Floor Leader Dixon, for your presentation, your important work on this issue. I want to recognize First Lady of Georgia, who's joined us in committee today. We're so honored to have you here today, Madam First Lady, and want to speak on behalf of the entire House Judiciary Committee and just say how grateful we are for your leadership and working to end this evil criminal enterprise that has plagued our state for so long. And thanks to your leadership, we have become a national leader addressing it and the example on how to take on these horrific crimes that harm children and adults throughout our state. And so I want to thank you, Madam First Lady, and certainly if there's any comments you want to give, you are more than welcome to, but we're just so very grateful for your leadership. Thank you. And I'll make a motion to pass at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, motion to pass.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. All right. Bill passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Get your rules form.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that.
Yep,
Thank you.
All right. And now we're going to move on to Senator Walker's bills. Come on up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman
Good afternoon.
and committee. So I have two bills. One is a Senate resolution because it will require a constitutional amendment. And then the other is just a Senate bill. So Senate Resolution 134, I'll go over that one first. And I'm using LC 280124. We already have provisions in the code for removal or suspension of public officials if they are indicted for a felony and deemed unable to perform their duties due to that felony indictment. What we don't have is a provision to suspend their pay pending the outcome of that indictment. And this bill, that's what it would do. Is if you look at line, I guess it's 45. We strike on line 45 through 47 those lines, which would make it, the officer shall not be entitled to receive the compensation from his or her office while they're removed. So it's pretty kind of common sense that you wouldn't want to pay, in the business world, you wouldn't pay two people to do the same job, or you wouldn't pay somebody that was not performing the job. And so this addresses that. There is, if they are exonerated, they would be entitled to receive the withheld compensation. If you'll look on lines 48 and 49.
All right. Any questions?
Number 7.
You're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Chairman Walker, for your presentation, bringing this important issue before us. I know you and I just had a chance to huddle ahead of time, and it's not something I'd propose likely as an amendment at this time, but just had an inquiry as to whether maybe we could work on the constitutional amendment language for the voters to consider. That's at the end of the resolution. Just because I know we're all about clarity in the language that we put before the voters so they can understand the issue and make a decision about the matter that's being brought before them. But I have, just for the benefit of the subcommittee, I've passed out, or you all should have a proposed language to address that. And Mr. Chairman, based upon that, are you agreeable to maybe working together, if that's what we deem appropriate, in full committee, to potentially include that as part of a substitute?
I like the language you proposed. It's simpler and more straightforward, in my opinion, and might be easily read and understood by the public. And I'd be happy to work with you. My only concern is this requires a 2/3 majority, and I did pass it in the Senate. Well, I think it was 51-1. And I just hope it wouldn't get caught up in some sort of other bipartisan but anyway, yes.
Well, I am certainly sensitive to that. I want to make sure good policy also doesn't get held up by the clock as well here. And certainly I think the existing language is legally sufficient. There's no question about that. But thank you.
I'd be happy to work with you on this.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks
Yeah.
for suggesting that.
Yes, sir.
I think it's an improvement.
Any other questions?
So I probably didn't make it clear, but this pertains to statewide elected officials and the Georgia General Assembly. And that's why it requires a constitutional amendment. And then my other bill, Senate Bill 218, applies to local elected officials.
Basically the same kind of wording.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I recall this from all those years ago when I worked with Governor Harris. That's when this was first put into law. I think one of the concerns back then was the indictment being used as a political weapon to cut off the funds and get to somebody. Was that ever discussed in the Senate? Did y'all?
The one nay vote on the Senate floor, I talked to him afterwards, and that was his concern, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But there's the process itself of removing the indicted official there is some due process built into that in current code, and the fact that they would be able, if they were exonerated, they would get the compensation that was withheld, that satisfies my concerns with that because the person's actually not performing the duties. So you could argue that they could take another job. I mean, it's not preventing them from having other employment necessarily.
Mhm.
And you are having to pay somebody to do, the taxpayers are paying double in certain circumstances. And I don't think that's fair to the taxpayer.
Sure. I understand. All right. Representative Wilson.
Senator, for bringing this to the concern that the indictment might be used as a weapon, a political tool against an opponent. Like, there's really nothing stopping someone from doing that now, right? It's just the person would still continue to be paid, but not perform the job functions because they're suspended. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So this is meant to basically protect the state's treasury and the taxpayers' dollar, right?
Yes, sir.
And we're currently facing this right now, right? Because we're currently paying 2 insurance commissioners. Is that
Yes.
correct? Thank you.
Okay. And I certainly don't mean to imply by my question that, I wouldn't be in favor of this. It's just that was a reality that was discussed back then when this was first put in place.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else have a question? Yes, sir. Mr. Leverett, what number are you?
Number 12.
12. Can you go next door there?
We're all so no match today.
Should be number 11.
This is 11.
All right, Representative Leverett.
We better now.
You're on. It should be, unless it's,
Okay. I got a green light here. So just to make sure I understand, the indictment itself doesn't trigger the suspension. The indictment triggers the appointment of the commission to investigate whether or not the person should be suspended. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just thought Chairman Gunter made a good point. but
Mr. Chairman, I can't hear.
yeah, you got to go to another one.
How about now?
There you go.
There I am. Okay. Senator, I'll state the question again for the folks who are on Zoom. My understanding from just looking at your bill, and I appreciate it setting out the whole constitutional provision, is that the indictment doesn't trigger the suspension. The indictment triggers the appointment of a commission subject to some discretion, I think, in the governor, and the commission then would make a determination that actually is the one that affects the suspension.
The commission would make a recommendation to the governor, and the governor and just after the recommendation, I guess, could take the recommendation or not. Unless it is the governor, then there's other officials that would come into play. But yes, basically, yes, you're right.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And I suppose, and you all are learning attorneys, I'm not, but there'd be certain types of felonies that would not necessarily preclude somebody's ability to continue to do the job. I guess is a DUI a felony?
Depends.
Or
Not unless you do a lot of them.
Yeah. I think the third offense makes it habitual violator. If he gets charged with habitual violator, then it's a felony.
so I don't know what line it is on, but it basically somewhere in here says that if the felony precludes the person from being able to do the job, that's
Which is what the committee's all about, is
Right,
to
yes, sir.
make that determination and then make the recommendation to the governor. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Representative Wilson.
Senator, was there ever any discussion at the beginning of this of including judges? I know it would be a separate code section.
I have not discussed that. It did occur to me, and I assume what I assumed was because of is it the JQC?
I think it includes it.
That's was my assumption, is there was already in another area the ability to deal with judges, but y'all may know better, but
I would say the JQC would be the entity that would remove the judge. They would still be paid, yes.
Up until the JQC removal.
Right.
I mean, I guess the JQC could suspend if they didn't voluntarily suspend. While they're voluntarily suspended, the pay continues, but the JQC can always go back and just order the removal.
I think that's right. Any other questions? Any further discussion? I don't think we don't have any witnesses or anything, right? Okay. All right, we'll start with Senate Resolution 134. All right. I have a motion and a second. Are there any amendments? You want to do this as an amendment or? Okay. Or do you prefer to wait to do the full committee, Mr. Chairman?
Representative Wilson, I know you seconded the motion on the resolution. Do you have a copy of the proposed language? Do you feel that do you have an opinion about the ballot question as posed there?
I have your proposed amendment here. I tend to agree with the senator that I think it's cleaner and more to the point. I don't feel particularly strongly one way or the other, though.
Well, I'm going to withdraw the amendment at this time, and certainly, Senator, you and I can have some discussions offline if we need to. But that's my posture right now. I won't propose it. So I'll just pleased to go forward with a motion, Mr. Chairman, your discretion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any other amendments? All right. All those in favor of the bill signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Bill's resolution passes. Now, as to Senate Bill 218, do I hear a motion?
Move to pass.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Both your bills passed.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'll get with you, Chairman.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
And we are adjourned.